Hello and welcome back with me, Admiral. Joining me back on Star Trek Fleet Command as always. This episode's going to be about officers. Which officers should you prioritize over other officers in terms of using the XP, for example, and what you should look for when you're obviously upgrading officers to their maximum potential levels as well. Before we start, thank you to all of the new subscribers to the channel. We've pushed on through 500 now, and we are now at 540. The next goal, as everyone's aware, the next goal is 1,000. Once we get to 1,000, then I'm going to try and organize something. I don't know what it is yet, but we will try and organize maybe like a giveaway or something on the lines of that if possible. Like I say, that won't be until we get to 1,000 though. So keep smashing that subscribe button and let's crack on with the episode. So thanks for the suggestion. Faction Hunts, please, who's on my Discord. Thanks for the suggestion. So his comment was, since we have lost a steady supply of officer experience points, can I talk about what officers I think that you should upgrade from the most important to the least important? So I've split it down into technically 4 different categories. It is free, but technically 4. So I've got primary, secondary. Primary, they're obviously the first ones you should look to obviously to upgrade as fast as you can. Secondary, again, these are good officers, but they're not as important. And then I've got a category of if you can. So that's be your third sort of, if you can upgrade them, then I would suggest upgrading them. And then I've got a separate category, which is why I said 4, which is territories. And these are 2 officers that potentially could be very handy when it comes to territories. But they are also officers that I would recommend and probably put in the primary category as well, or secondary, depending on obviously what your viewpoints are as well. So let's dive right in. I'll try and keep this as brief as possible because I know a lot of people say I go off track. So I'm going to try and keep as focused as possible on the subject and get the video smashed out. So my primary officers are the ones that I believe you should obviously upgrade first. I've got, obviously I can't get them up here, but I've got them as a list. So we've got Talan. So this is obviously Talan, just due to her secondary ability. Or officer ability. Obviously, she is massive against, obviously, when it comes to swarm hunting and stuff like that. So I would definitely recommend getting her maxed out as soon as possible. My second primary, again, these are not in order of how I think you should do them. Just want to put that out. This is just a random list that I've got together of what I think should be your first focus, your second, and so on. So just bear that in mind. It's not a 1 to 10. This is the order you should upgrade them or try and get them as well. So second one we've got is Scotty. So we've got Cadet Scotty. The reason we got Cadet Scotty, this one I had to think about quite a lot, but the reason we put him in is because he can come handy, especially when he has a boost of 5 warp range. That can be quite handy in certain circumstances, and having that extra warp range is useful. That's the only reason why I've put him in there, and he is relatively cheap as well, so don't worry about that. The third one I've got is Chen, for obvious reasons again. She is just like, obviously, Talan, but with obviously energy rather than kinetic. So she is going to be your hostile grinding crew. So when you can upgrade this her character, definitely upgrade her and use the XP to obviously try and get her maxed out as soon as possible. When it comes to, right, so then we go to the rares. Okay, so first one we've got is Spock. Spock is, I think, a no-brainer due to, again, his secondary ability of the 400% slash 7. I think it's 750% when he gets maxed out. So again, upgrade Spock as quick as you can if possible, and obviously save up your Federation credits to obviously upgrade him as well, because you're going to need him, and he is very, very useful and very strong as a character. I've put this one I was getting and ahhing about, but I've put Kumak as well, just because he teams and partners with Nero really well due to this, again, burning ability of a secondary ability. So I've put him as well, and he's a really good burning officer to use, especially to use as captain as well, because you get this 5% to all stats as well. That's really good, and the more upgraded he gets, the better, and the better synergy he gets, the better that works as well. And then we've got as another primary, we've got Kirk. The reason I put Kirk in is because his ability directly impacts how Spock works as well, because you have to have morale on the crew, on the ship. So again, his ability is very key. So this is why I put Kirk, and he's a useful officer anyway because of his leader role. Again, all to do with morale. So that's why I put him in there. He's a very good officer to have and to use. Moving on, I've got Monroe. Again, this is due to the fact that she's a hostile grinding crew member, and she is obviously immensely useful when it comes to having the synergy with Pike, and obviously the hostile deductions that she helps with. Moving on to the sort of the epic officers, I guess that's what you call them. We've got Khan. Khan's immensely useful. Again, he's allowing you to get the critical hits. It's 2% cumulative every time the ship is hit. So that adds up eventually, and you can pop off the criticals a lot faster, especially when you get him upgraded. He goes to 4%. That is immensely useful. So again, Khan is definitely should be on your high list to try and get him upgraded. And then I've gone with Pike. Pike, again, for obvious reasons. He is your hostile grinding crew officer again. And he allows you to get XP with advanced training. So again, that is immensely useful as well. And then my last one for this, the last two for this row, I've got Nero. The reason I've got Nero is because, again, he is a burning crew, and burning can be very, very useful, especially when it comes to going against ships that are so much higher level than you. Burning can be very useful to use, more useful than probably the others like Morale and Hull Breach. Burning's probably the most useful, especially when it comes to taking out the higher level ships. Also, the last one I've got, which I do not have this officer, but the one I've suggested is Harrison. The reason you should, if you can get him upgraded, you definitely should, due to obviously, again, it's mainly down to his secondary ability. So for the first round of combat, John Harrison ignores 60% of the opponent's shields. That will go up, obviously, each level you have him. And then obviously, when you fight an Explorer, John Harrison has a weapon damage. That's just against Explorer. But this is an incredibly good skill, especially when you're going against things like enterprises and stuff like that. If you put him as an officer, for example, in an enterprise, then that is going to be insanely useful because it ignores 60% and you get the bonus damage against because it's an explorer, for example. So that's my primaries. Moving on to the secondary officers that again, this is all just my opinion. Obviously, if you don't agree with me, then please let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. But my secondary ability ones, again, in no particular order, are going to be Zhao Qin. Again, mainly because of his firewall protection. His cargo capacity ability is insanely good, especially when he synergizes with a couple of the others, and you get some data mining stuff as well with it. But it's mainly the cargo protection that is just insanely good, especially when, like I say, when you team him up with some others. I've also gone with Origin Stamets. The reason I've gone with Origin Stamets is mainly, again, his secondary ability, because it increases your warp speed. So this is allowing you to get around the galaxy a lot faster than you should or would normally. And the reason I've gone for him over the likes of Helvia or something is because he's not impacted directly by what's in your cargo bay. So if you, for example, have to go and do a mission and have to take out an enemy, then you're going to retain something within your cargo bay, at which point Helvia is completely useless because her ability only works if the cargo bay is empty, whereas his ability works at all times, which is why I think he's a better choice overall, and he's not that expensive to upgrade either. And then we've gone with people like Bones. because he is, again, he's going to synergize with Spock and Kirk if you want to use the morale crew. He's a very good officer to use, but I've got him as a secondary officer because I don't feel like he's as important as the other two. Then we've gone for a couple of mining officers. So we've got Toping, again, for a protection cargo capacity. So once you get this up, this is going to be an insane amount of cargo capacity that you can obviously increase. So that again is going to help massively when it comes to mining or anything on the lines of that. And then I've gone for Ston as well. Again, when you're base raiding, you want this secondary ability to be as high as possible, due to the fact that he increases the cargo capacity of the ship by, obviously, mine's only 30%. Well, this will obviously increase. If it show, yeah, that definitely increases. I don't know what to, but it does increase. So that's going to help massively when it comes to, obviously, base raiding, for example. So them two are secondaries, and then probably two that are a little bit controversial. People might disagree with these ones, but I'm going to leave them in as secondary officers anyway. I've gone for Kayla and Gorkon, wherever Gorkon's gone. It must be further down. But I've gone for Kayla. The reason is I've gone for these two is because they work well together with Hull Breach, especially when you team them up with like the likes of Khan, because Kayla's ability obviously is to the crit chance. So Kayla increases the critical hit damage. So if you can get them critical hits, which what Khan helps with, then he's going to increase the damage you do every single time you hit a crit. So that is really, really good and useful to have. And again, I've gone with Gorkon because his ability is not the greatest, just because Hull Breach is, it's not amazing Hull Breach, but at the same time it does help when it comes to, especially if you get the critical hits. It definitely does help to have, just to increase your power output, or damage output should I say. And then I've gone for two which are more high level officers, or are going to help with more high level players. Due to the nature of their abilities. One of them is Yuki. Yuki, obviously, to have as an officer, especially if you team her up with the likes of Harrison, for example. This is a really good Enterprise destroyer. So Yuki decreases the shield health of the opponent's ship by 10% each round. So like I say, if you team that with Harrison, if you have obviously Harrison, then this is obviously immensely useful to obviously get the synergy, and you can obviously upgrade her and get even more shields off in the future. I've then gone for Zhao. Again, his ability teams well with Kirk and Spock. Due to the nature of his secondary, it needs for obviously morale to pop, and then shield deflection, armor, dodge of the ship by 30% of the crew defense. So that again is really useful to have as well. They're more high level officers or high level players officers that you want to look for, but I've gone for them as like sort of, if you can upgrade them, then try and upgrade them as well. And then for an if you can category, I've gone for all of the Borg officers. The reason I've gone for all of the Borg officers, in no particular order, is because they're all useful in their own different ways. So 5 of 10, 6 of 10, and then we've obviously got 7 of 10 against obviously the Borg probes, and then obviously we're going to come to 9 and 8 of 10 as well, which synergize really well with 7 of 10 are going against the Borg probes. So if you can, then I would recommend trying to upgrade them. In no particular order. If anything, you're probably going to focus on 5 or 10 first if you have her. If you don't, then I'd say in no particular order. And then when it comes to territories, there's only 2 officers picked here, which I think are useful. These are also officers that I think that could be used in any other role, not just this role. Well, one of them definitely, but it's Jojo. Again, her abilities are obviously the burning. When an opponent is obviously burning, she decreases the attack of all the officers on the ship by 100%, which is incredibly good. These are good PvP officers, bearing in mind. At the beginning of each round, she obviously has 50% chance of burning for 2 rounds. And then the officer I would synergize with her as best as I can would be Tyler. And again, it's due to his secondary ability. At the start of each round, if the opponent is bearing Ash Tyler, increases the damage of the ship by 50% of the total of all the officers on the ship, and that is cumulative. So again, I would synergize them together. And again, these are PvP style officers for territories mainly, but they can be used obviously elsewhere. But I've got them under the territories officers rather than having them obviously on their own separate thing. That concludes today's video. Hopefully this has helped everyone out a little bit more than it used to, because there is not a lot of officers now and it can get very confusing. So that's just my take on what I think. Please let me know your thoughts down below. Hopefully I didn't veer off topic too much today. It is a little bit of a long one due to the nature of how many officers that we went through there. However, I will see you next time. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you obviously enjoying the content, and hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Bye bye for now.